How you doing, everybody? It's Keith Hayden here with part 10 of writing this best-selling novel. And as you can see, I'm wearing different shirt. It's a different day. I did not do the novel in a day. I should have known better, just knowing the way that I am. And you've kind of seen the process. If you've watched all of the videos in the series, you know now that, or at least you should appreciate now, that writing with AI, if you want to write well with AI, then it's more than just saying generate this chapter or generate this book. It's really about clarifying your ideas, clarifying your story. I do a lot of clarification with the characters, making sure that they're interesting, making sure that I'm not only getting a story out there, but that it's a story that hits my intent. And maybe you started this series thinking that, oh, okay, he's just gonna hit generate and bam, the book's gonna be done. It's not that easy if you want to make something good. And I think, of course, there are people out there who are doing this, who are posting full books that they've never read and have no editing, and they probably don't make any sense. But that's not what I'm trying to do with this course. So I have a couple of things to say before I get started in this video. One is that I apologize. The first 9 videos I recorded on the same day, thinking that I was going to foolishly that I was going to do this all in one day. And at the time, I wasn't sure if I was going to make this into a course or not. I was just knowing that I wanted to make this a series, make it accessible for you if you wanted to see my process for putting out what I feel like could be a bestseller, making it more than just writing something random, something that's deliberate, something that's meant to really fit to a certain market or a certain niche. That's the first thing I wanted to say. The the next thing was, that it's you're not going to do this in one day. And I mean, you could, but you're not going to get a 70,000 word good novel in one day. You could surely do 70,000 words in one day with AI if you don't care what it's writing. But if you care what it's writing, you're going to go slower. You're going to go through the process as I've been doing now. So in this video, what are we going to do? Enough with the disclaimers. Let's get writing, because that's what I'm here to do. So I was thinking about what I should do next. And if you've probably it's been a couple of days for me since I've recorded this, but you've probably just watched the last video if you're on this video. And there's a couple of directions we could go from here. And let me pull over the draft over here on Obsidian. Just finished chapter 6. But before I think I'm going to write another chapter, because I'm trying to get at least one chapter down a day. So let's get into the next chapter. The last chapter, we introduced our villains. And we've got our 2 villains. They have this very clandestine, not so clandestine actually, type of meeting. And now the reader is being introduced to, okay, here comes, they've been whispering about something weird going on. Now there's 2 people who are at least involved in this weird thing that's happening. So let's go back to our outline. And let's go down to what we said for chapter 7, which I've got to remind myself, because I have not looked at this in 2 days. So I've got to refresh, see what's happening here. Oh, I'm sorry, we're on chapter 6. That's right. Okay. So 6 is here. James' support. 10 students were sent home. Okay, so I did write this before I finished up last time. James, I want him to be supportive, but this next chapter, we're going to focus back on Xena again. And I want this to be of course, ChatGPT or Claude, actually. The AI models default to like a peaceful, resolved type of relationship. We don't want that. That shit boring. So we need to spice things up a bit. Xena and James have an argument. They're going to have an argument over something, because the stage is already set, right? She tried to call him. She's obviously upset about something. her students are coming to her with concerns, and James is too busy. And then we focused on James in chapter 4, where he knows he could be doing better in the husband department, but like a lot of active duty military members, he ain't got time for it. Dude busy. So this is a common struggle that I've certainly lived, and it'll be very relatable to our readers. So we want to put this in here. 10 students were sent home vomiting, and Xena is concerned. She and James have an argument sparked by something stupid. I put the dog didn't get fed. The first thing. Actually, let's change this to cat. I feel like, well, a lot of people do have dogs. I feel like Americans are more dog people than cats people. Let's keep it dog. She tries to get information from him, but he says he can't because of his clearance. They spend an icy evening together before she goes to bed. Silently, she is turning over a plan to investigate in her mind as James dozes softly behind her. Okay, that's what we want in this chapter. Now, let me tell you something that I like to do with the AI as I'm writing. As you can see, this first chat with Claude is getting pretty long. This was our establishing chat. This is the very first chat. I want you to help me write a novel. So what I'd like to do is every day I like to refresh, because like I said, even if you're using the paid version of Claude, at least as of this may change in the future by the time you're watching this, but as of right now, it runs out of token space. So that means, and Claude will actually tell you like, hey, this chat's getting a little bit long. You should probably start a new one. So I like to avoid that because it is frustrating when the chat, because we have all of our context in here. We have all of our basically, it's like talking to a person. And then all of a sudden that person runs out of space in their brain and you have to go talk to somebody else and explain to them again, this is what I'm writing, this is what the story's about. It gets pretty tedious, but here's a quick technique you can use. Okay, so summarize everything we've talked about, and this is a common technique, at least in the early days of using these AI chatbots when their memory is pretty limited. Yeah, it just helps to. Oh, I realized I didn't turn on my timer. I'll give myself 15 more minutes. It's a good idea keeping these videos shorter. Definitely helped yesterday. Okay. So anyway, summarizing the chats really helps, and I like to do this because it's kind of quizzing the AI to gather everything it knows, and then it tells me everything that it knows, so I know, okay, it's got this a little bit wrong, okay, it's got that right, and so on. So let's just see what it says. Mm-hmm. Good. Very good. Okay, good. So far, we've completed the first 3 chapters. Bro, it's been 5 chapters. Okay, I'm going to add this prompt to the prompt, my master prompt document over here. which you can find in the. Uh, I'll talk about it at the end. The prompt document. Maybe you've already found it, depending on how you're accessing this course. But yeah, I figured it would be good to have all of the prompts that I'm using in one place. And this is the master prompt document. And let's add heading. All right, nice. All right, let's see how it updated it. I apologize for the confusion. Perfect. Okay, great. And so I'm going to save this to the Obsidian. This is AI summary. And let's just put the date 5/23/24. Boom. Okay. So now we've basically created a save state for ourselves. Like we've done the equivalent of save the game to where, okay, I know where it's at. It did a really good job with this summary. This is spot on. This is more or less what it has. And now I feel comfortable starting up a new chat to continue. And what I'm going to do is, didn't mean that. I'm going to go back. I'm going to continue like what I started at the beginning. Give it this first prompt, and then I'm going to give it the summary to immediately catch it up. So it knows the task that we're working on, and maybe you won't have to do this in the future. But for now, when they're still kind of shaky on their memory as much as how much they can remember, and it has definitely gotten better in the last, I don't know, even 4 or 5 months. It's gotten much better how much it can remember in the context. But then we'll grab summary. Okay, great. Now we've had a successful reset. Now let's get back to writing. Let's start chapter 6. One last thing I wanted to do was save this prompt. And I'm going to erase my summary to where anybody can, here's what the story is about. Perfect. All right. Now we're ready to move on. Based on the events in chapter chapters 1 through 4. Okay, so we know this chapter is going to be James and Xena. From Xena's perspective, okay. Let's go back to our document. Pull our characters down. Here's Xena. And here's James right below her. Since we've almost forgot this step, since we've started a new chat, I need to refeed it my chat rules or my writing rules. Here it is. Okay, we don't need the techniques of a selling writer. That's good for the beginning of a story, but not. We don't need it now that we're already in. And hopefully, if the readers got into chapter 6, they're already invested in the story. And if we do our job correctly, they will keep reading. Chapter 6 story beats. And you don't have to call them story beats. I mean, that's just kind of what I call, that's the traditional name for what people call, like, basically the brief. That's what I call it. I call it a chapter brief. Like, this is what I want to happen in a chapter. Here's who's in it. And then based on that, the AI can write a more accurate chapter. We're giving guidelines for the AI. So this, what I went over in the very beginning, this is our, now these are throwing me off with these numbers. This is chapter 6. Okay, so just a review of everything that I'm putting in this refresh chat. This always takes a little bit longer because you have to reestablish, but it's worth it because just like I said in, I can't remember which video it was in, but it was the very first chat for the book. You want to make sure that very first chat before you hit enter. As a matter of fact, this is another reason why I use Obsidian, something outside of the chatbot, because it's really easy. In these chatbots, they basically have it to where it's you hit enter and boom, it goes. That's a problem when you're putting so much stuff in here because you have to control enter, make sure you don't fuck up and accidentally push it and you weren't ready, which is always a nightmare because, like I said, the AI is going to get an impression of what you want done, and that very first thing you ask has a super powerful effect on everything else it delivers. That's why when you reset, if you do this reset, which you will eventually have to if you are using Claude right now, then you need to treat it as if it's that very first prompt again at the beginning of the book. I mean, it is the first prompt, but you have the summary, which is good, but then you need to make sure and re-give it so you're basically going to start as if you didn't even change chats. That's what we're going for. We want that continuity because in between chats, once you start getting a little bit off course, then you can get a completely different story. And this far in the story, we want to stay focused. We want to stay tight on what we started with. That's why this is important. So we started with, I want you to recall the events from chapters 1 through 4. You're going to write chapter 6, give it the POV. Then I gave it the writing rules again. Then I gave it the main characters again, or at least the characters in this chapter that I want in this chapter. Then I gave it the brief. And so those things, the writing rules, the brief, the chapter brief, what I want to happen in chapter, the characters, and what chapters I wanted to pull it from in the past. All right, let's get this going with chapter 6. Okay, this is okay. Just I haven't read it in depth, but I already know it's gonna need some. It's gonna need some tweaking. All right. All right. I'm going to take a break and I'll come back and fix up this chapter. Hope this lesson was helpful for you. And this is what I was going to say in the middle of this video. I've put this together in two places essentially. One is you can access this course in two ways. And if you're listening to this, you already accessed the course, but it's in my website. You can do it on my website. And then you can also find it on Gumroad where you can purchase it separately. But either way, it's on my website and it does require a paid subscription to Hack Studios Backstage, which also gives you access to all of my books, all of my sneak previews. It's basically first line access to the stuff that I'm making, including things like this book. So if you want to see future trainings and see what I'm coming up with next, then that's going to be a great option. Thanks for watching this video. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.